So, okay, so what we are going to look at today, okay, we have discussed uh, automated flow lines, right? And buffer storage. Why do we need it, etc. Right? That's your buffer storage. So basically, in between two stages of a production line, you will have this buffer storage. We discussed why do we need that, right? Station breakdowns are part of the process in manufacturing industries. Station breakdowns are there. I mean, either because of tool changing or because either it's a malfunction. Okay, various reasons. Curing time also, right? Especially for painting processes, etc. So you have to have these buffer storages. They are basically storage capacities, right? Storage buffer, as it says, that you're going to store parts in them, so that if stage one is affected, I mean, if stage one is not working, stage two will continue to work because you already have parts in the buffer storage and it will take that. Okay, and vice versa, stage two could be down and stage one is processing. So if you don't have a buffer storage, then it will, these parts will be blocked here, right? They will not be able to move here because these workstations are not working. So if you provide this buffer storage, the stage one can provide its output into this buffer storage so long as it is full. Okay, that is also a limitation, but you will still have some time, right, to repair these stage two machines, and then you can start working. I mean, both stages can start working. So this is clear, right? Buffer storage. So when it comes to analysis of transfer lines, right, there are three problem areas when it comes to automated flow lines or transfer lines. We discussed that it is line balancing, processing technology, and system reliability. So as for line balancing, I told you that there are some limitations, that you have to perform some processes earlier. Okay, like before threading, you have to do turning, right? So to be able to get a smooth surface. So like that, and drilling, after drilling you can do boring, like that. Or if it is an assembly, then that is also another example, that two components have to be assembled first, and then they will go to that this some assembly will go to another uh, what do you call, workstation to get assembled, right? So sub assemblies will get assembled. So that is basically you are limiting, you have limitations, that first these processes are to be performed and then this. So that has to be balanced. That comes under your line balancing. Okay, we'll cover this in your second part of third unit. So processing technology, the problem is manufacturing limitations, right? Feed, speed, and depth of cut based on material limitations. So based on manufacturing principles, you have some limitations. So that comes off as one problem area. Third problem area is your system reliability. That is basically the workstations are not what do you call, as they do not function as we suppose it to, right? We have malfunctions, we have breakdowns, etc., right? We discussed. So that is your system reliability problem. So you have to consider this problem area, okay, just to have the smooth production, isn't it? All of these will ensure smooth production itself. So the third area is system reliability, which is what we will address. This is clear, right? The three problem areas. So the last one is your system reliability. That is what we are considering. So you see, if you consider without buffer storage, okay, this is a transfer line without buffer storage. So the raw work parts come in, okay, and then they are processed through every workstation, right? Station one, station two, and so on. And in the end, you have a finished part. Okay, that's your automated flow line. Okay, inline basically, as you can say. So it's an inline automated flow line. Okay, so and it is without buffer storage. You don't see any storage in between, right? They are just processed one after the other. The work parts coming out of station one will go to two, and then three, and then four, so on. So you don't have any buffer storage here, right? So this is what we are going to consider. With buffer storage, okay, without buffer storage first, and then with buffer storage. Okay, if you have a buffer storage in between, what is the terminology and what are the problems, and how we can increase the efficiency of this automated flow line, etc. Okay, this is your another transfer line without buffer storage. You have an inspection station here at the end. So basically just wanted to that you have these feedback loops, these inspection as I told you, right? Inspection stations could also be incorporated in between. We discussed this. So this is the example of that, because these inspection stations will be providing a feedback to the processing station so that they can improve, right? We have learned about that strategy in automation, remember? uh, Online inspection, right? Inspection as you are doing it. So they will improve the processing based out of this feedback from the inspection station, right? So that will help improve the uh, production rate and basically reduce the scrap, isn't it? That's what it is doing, so that we don't have defective parts, much defective parts. Okay. All the errors which are observed can be corrected, right? So that's that. And let me put that PDF, okay? Because I don't think it will be, because I've put it, I had to cut it into pieces, right? So if you want to have a full view of that PDF, I will put it in the group, okay? So that you can see it meanwhile, okay? If you don't, if it is not clear from here, then you can look at it from that PDF, okay? Is that fine? Okay. If it is not clear from here, then you can have a look at that PDF, okay? Because it will be in pieces here, right? That's what. So you see, when it comes to the assumptions, okay, we have some assumptions here that we are not considering too complicated of an analysis. Okay, we are trying to have some simplicity here, so we are assuming some things. First assumption is your workstations perform processing operations such as machining and not assembly. Okay, we are considering now machining operations. Okay, processing time, because this is one of the reasons why this is selected is because assemblies, as we know, they have what do you call more of a line balancing problem, right? That one step has to be performed before the other. It's very important in assembly. So machining, we can consider it not so not so required, because the machines would be arranged in a fashion. Okay, so that is why we're considering that assumption. Okay, one of the reasons. Other thing is your processing times at each station are constant, although not necessarily equal. So the processing times are constant, basically the cycle times, we can say they are constant. Okay, they're not changing. And work transport is synchronous. We have discussed three types of work transport, isn't it? What were they? Can anyone point out? What are the three types of work part transfer? Your first one was continuous, right? I gave you the example of beverage bottle filling, right? That's your continuous. The second one was synchronous, isn't it? And the third one was asynchronous. So synchronous basically is that you have all of the operations. The workheads are not moving. First distinction from the first one, that is your continuous transfer, is that they are not moving, right? Only the work parts are moving. The workheads are not moving. The work parts are taken to different workstations. But all of that is happening once. It is in synchronous basically. After, let's say, 6 seconds, 6 seconds is the cycle time. After every 6 seconds, each work part will move on to the next consecutive one. Okay, just a minute. Okay, so synchronous, okay, that is clear, I believe. And the third one is asynchronous, right? So just wanted to have a quick revision. Third assumption is the work parts are synchronous, the transport of the work part is synchronous, right? So all of them are moving at a time. Okay, for example, you see this example that after every, let's say the cycle time is 6 seconds, so after every 6 seconds each work part will move on to the next one. Okay, the first one will move to the second station, the second one will move to the third station. Okay, so every 6 seconds the transfer mechanism works and it shifts the work part one step ahead. Okay, I hope I'm clear. Okay, just that is the synchronous part. No internal storage buffer, that's the basic assumption, isn't it? We are considering without buffer storage, so that's the assumption. Okay, let's move on. Without buffer storage, okay, so that's the terminology we have. Okay, we'll see a problem that will get you to understand what it means. Okay, it will get you an idea of what actually these terms mean. I'll explain that also meanwhile. Okay, so we are considering the cycle time analysis. Okay, basically what are the times involved, technical terms. First equation, as you can see, TC, that's your ideal cycle time on the line, right, in minutes, or basically processing time for the slowest station. So you see, what we are trying to consider here is, I told you each station may or may not have the same processing time. Okay, it will vary, right, a little bit. So you see, for example, station 1, let's say, has 5 seconds as cycle time. Station 2 has 4. Okay, station 3 has again 4. Station 4 has 6. Station 5 has maybe 3 seconds, and station 6 has let's say 7 seconds. Okay, so you see, because if you keep the work part transport to be at 3 seconds, it is not sensible, right? Because other operations are not finished. This station has finished processing its part in 3 seconds, but other stations have not finished it. So you see, the problem here is, the problem that you'll face is you have to go by the slowest station, right? Your transport mechanism has to be set based on the slowest station, right? So your cycle time is based on the slowest station. Are you getting what I'm trying to say? Even though these stations have finished processing, the work part transport mechanism cannot function because station 6 requires 7 seconds. It has cycle time of 7 seconds. So you see, so you have to see the maximum time or the slowest station basically, isn't it? Is that clear? Yes. Yes, students. 372 Kushal, are you there in the class? Those not responding will be marked as absent. 372 Kushal. Okay, so is this clear or should I explain it again? 372 was removed from the meeting. Okay, just for your information. Yes, 374 Nagaraju. 374 Nagaraju. $374 was also removed. Okay. Okay, so you see, your cycle time is dependent on your slowest station. That's what is the point. Okay. So this is why you have to consider the maximum of TSI, right? TSI is basically your processing time at station I. How many stations you have depends on this. I is basically your station number, 1 2 3 4 5. Okay, so processing time, the maximum of the processing time, that is basically seventh, what you have taken here, 7 seconds, right? So you will take the maximum time, that is the slowest station, that and plus your repositioning time. TR is your repositioning time or transfer time, right? That for example, it takes some time to set up, right? That you set up time basically, and even transferring also. Okay, so that when added with your processing time, that is actually when the process is happening, these two additions will give you the actual cycle time, basically ideal cycle time. Okay, this is ideal, not actual. Okay, we'll see why it is ideal, but that's TC. Okay, important thing, TC is your ideal cycle time. Okay, now considering the downtime occurrences. Okay, we know downtimes are part of the process. Downtimes happen, I told you various reasons. So if you want to consider that, you have this formula, downtime. If you want to have that downtime, TP, it is TC plus F times TD. Okay, TC is what we know, ideal cycle time on the line, we have already discussed, right? And so TC in addition to what, F into TD. What is TD? TD is the average downtime per line stop. So basically you'll have this from statistics. Okay, what is the average downtime? If the line is stopping, okay, for how many minutes average, on an average? Okay, that's your TD. Okay, that multiplied by F. What is F? It is a downtime frequency, how many line stops are happening per cycle. Okay, for example, I'll give you an idea. If for every 100 cycles, okay, you are having one line stop. Okay, let's say you are having, for every 100 cycles, you are having one line stop. Okay, so your downtime frequency would be 1 by 100, isn't it? That's basically 0.01, isn't it? Just to give you a real sense of what it means, downtime frequency, how frequently are the downtimes happening, line stops per cycle, because we have divided it. Okay, and the 100 is cycles, so that becomes downtimes per I'm sorry, line stops per cycle. This value becomes the line stops per cycle. Okay, that's your F. So this frequency when multiplied with average downtime, okay, TD, okay, and that when added with your ideal cycle time will give you the actual average production time. Okay, considering downtime also, we had considered ideally earlier, TC was ideal. So if you consider this time also, because of downtimes, this added term is your extra term, right? This extra term will account for the downtimes, so that you can have this actual average production time. Okay, clear? Okay. And okay, that's the downtime. Other thing is, how do you calculate f? Okay, another question, how do we calculate f, the frequency? So basically it depends on this formula, that is your summation I going from 1 to n pi. Okay, what is p? P is the frequency of station breakdowns. Okay, probability of station breakdowns. So it is actually, if you what do you call, expand it, it comes out to be what, p1 plus p2, right, plus p3, and so on, right, so on up to pn, isn't it? Number of stations, if they are n, so you'll count the probabilities. If let's say the probabilities are equal, okay, it's not practical, but let's say, okay, for calculation purposes, for simplification in the calculation, let's say all the probabilities, these probabilities are basically for individual stations. For station 2, okay, this is for station 2, the probability of station breakdown is, for example, maybe 0.001, for example. Okay, that's your probability. We have all learned probability, right, in mathematics. So probability of station breakdown 2 is, let's say, this one could be different, third could be different, but let's say for simplification purpose they are all same. Okay, the probabilities are same. So how will you calculate the total frequency of breakdowns? You'll multiply the number of workstations, right? 1, 2, 3, so on up to n. So n into p, if they are all same, we can do n into p, right? This is n, not h. Okay, this is n into p. So this can be taken as n into p, right? If they are all are same, n represents the number of workstations, as I have written here, number of workstations. This is clear. How do you calculate f? Is basically the frequency. I've told you the uh, in the earlier slide, right? F is your expected frequency of line stops per cycle. Okay, if it is happening once in every 100 cycles, then your frequency is 0.01, 0.01. Okay, then performance measures, that was your cycle times, I mean the time analysis. This is your performance measures. What are the performance measures? How will you compare the performance, whether it is, I mean, from one system to the other? How do you compare? Based on these performance measures. First one being your production rate, right? So production rate is one useful measure to see how is the performance of this line. So production rate, how do you calculate? It's just the reciprocal of the average production time. Okay, actual average production time, TP, right, from equation 2. We have learned here 2, right? TP is TC plus FTD. So you do the reciprocal of that, because this is in minutes. Okay, basically what do you call, so if you do a reciprocal of that, you get it as pieces per minute, right? So that is your production rate. But if you want to calculate from ideal, RC 1 by TC, you do the reciprocal of ideal production time. Okay, TC, reciprocal of TC will give you RC, that is ideal production rate. Okay, ideal and actual, that's what is the difference. Okay, and how do you calculate TC? TC is from this formula, isn't it? Basically TC would be given in the question generally. So you do reciprocal of that, you get the production rate, ideal production rate to be exact. Okay, and then line efficiency, this is another measure of performance, that you have a ratio of TC to TP, that is basically your cycle time, right? Ideal cycle time to actual production time, isn't it? For example, ideal cycle time, let's say we got it to be 3 minutes. Okay, ideal TC. But actually, because of delays, because of downtimes, the actual production time is 4. Let's say, this is in minutes. Okay, it doesn't matter, right? Minutes by minutes get cancelled. Your efficiency is unitless. So how much does it come out to be? 0.75, 0.75. That's your efficiency, right? That's how you calculate E. Just to give you a physical sense of what is E. I've given this formula. Okay, I'm sorry, I've taken these values. So that's your efficiency. How efficient is your line? So higher the number, more efficient is it. And how do you do that? You increase the what do you call? I'm sorry, you decrease the actual production time, right? Downtimes, if you can avoid, you can increase the efficiency, right? Taking it closer to the ideal cycle time. That's basically what is happening. Clear? Line efficiency. So other thing is your so E, basically it is line efficiency, or you can also call it proportion of uptime on the production line. Okay, the other way to see it is proportion of downtime on the production line. Okay, that's basically FTD by TP. Okay, so we know from equation 2 we have seen here, equation 2 gives us TPS TC plus FTD. So that's basically what we are submitting here. If we substitute TPS TC plus FTD, you get this. So line efficiency, you can say either TC by TP or this formula. Similarly for D, that is proportion of downtime on the production line, you have this. So you see, if you add up these two, what will happen if we add up E and D, proportion of uptime and proportion of downtime, TC plus FTD, the numerators are same. You can add up the I'm sorry, the denominators are same. We can add up the numerators, right? So TC plus FTD will be the numerator and divided by TC plus FTD. So that's basically 1, isn't it? E plus D becomes 1. It is actually sensible because proportion of uptime and proportion of downtime should add up to 1, right? So that's what is there. And other performance measure is your cost, right? Another useful feature to measure the performance is cost. So CPC is basically cost per piece. Okay, that is dollars per piece or rupees per piece, etc. Okay, so CPC is your cost per piece. How do you get this? It's a combination of all these factors. What is CM? CM is the cost of starting material, the raw material basically. Okay, how much is the raw material per piece? Okay, so that's your CM. And C0 times TP. C0 is cost per minute to operate the line. Okay, that is how is it calculated? Based on the capital cost of equipment, labor, overheads, etc., right? All the miscellaneous costs, right? I told you that if there are laborers employed, you have to consider that also. Like you have to pay some money, right? And you see how is it per hour, how much is it per minute that you're paying them. So basically all that will count. Okay, and you'll take that here. C0 into TP. TP is average production time per piece. So this is the time that is required per piece multiplied by this cost per minute. Combination of all of that. Equipment cost. For example, the equipment has cost, it costs like 5 lakhs. Okay. So how much is the service life? For example, 10 years. So you divide it and you see how much, uh, what do you call, that's your service life, right? In hours. So per minute, how much is the cost? Okay, you go down to per minute and you see how much is the capital cost of equipment, how is that equipment cost affecting. Okay, for example, it is maybe $2 per minute. Okay, based on the equipment cost, it comes out to be $2 per minute. So that and labor and overheads, all of that will be counted. So this C0 will be a combination of all of this. It will give you the dollars per minute. Okay, these much dollars is the cost that is incurred to us because of using all these services. This multiplied by your average production time that the piece is requiring. Okay, whatever work piece that we are taking. And the last is CT, cost of tooling per piece. Tooling also is important, isn't it? These are the major factors that we are counting. Tooling also per piece. For example, a tool is able to process maybe like 100 pieces. Okay, so you divide the cost of that tool divided by 100, right? For example, 1,000 is the cost, let's say. Okay, 1,000 divided by 100 gives you 10, right? So dollars per piece is $10 per piece, the tooling cost. So that's the summation of all of that will give you cost per piece. Okay, that, for example, if I want to manufacture one component, how much is the cost per piece? For every piece I have to spend this much money, it is costing me this much, so that you can decide the selling price and profit and all of that, right? So this is clear. Is this performance measures and all the terminology? Okay, so you see, that's the terminology. Now we look at a problem, okay, that will give you a thorough idea of what we are looking at. Okay, you see, the problem here is a machine tool builder submits a proposal for a 20 station transfer line to machine a certain component currently produced by conventional methods. Okay, so this is basically a proposal being given. Okay, that he wants to have a 20 station transfer line, okay, for a particular component that currently he's producing by conventional methods. So the proposal states that the line will operate at a production rate of 50 pieces per hour at 100% efficiency. So these are all what is known to him. Okay, so he wants to have a production rate of 50 pieces. Okay, we are the engineers, okay, designing. Okay, so we have to know what will be the production rate and what do you call line efficiency and cost per unit piece. Okay, we have to know that. So the line has to produce 50 pieces per hour at 100% efficiency. On similar transfer lines, the probability of station breakdowns per cycle is equal for all stations, and it is this much. P is 0.005 breakdowns per cycle. Okay, because we have the data that we got, P is equal to 0.005, is from similar transfer lines. Okay, I told you, right? Statistics will give you the probability of breakdowns. So previous experiences will count and we'll decide what is the probability of a breakdown happening. So it is this, P is given. It is also estimated that the average downtime per line stop will be 8 minutes. Okay, average downtime, TD, right? 8 minutes for every line stop. If the line is stopping, then the average downtime to start it again is basically 8 minutes repair time. Starting casting that is machined on the line costs $3 per part. Okay, that is basically a raw material, isn't it? Starting casting, the line operates at a cost of $75 per hour. Okay, uh, 20 cutting tools, one tool per station, lasts for 50 parts each. I told you, right, that one tool will process so and so parts, so like that. Okay, and the average tool per average cost per tool is $2 per cutting edge. Based on this data, compute the production rate, the line efficiency, and the cost per unit piece produced on the line. Okay, we have to calculate these three things. Okay, so you see, for 100% efficiency, the line produces 50 pieces per hour. That was what was given. Reciprocal of this will give us the ideal cycle time. We know, right? We saw that RC is 1 by TC, right? And RP is 1 by TP. Reciprocal of the time, either it be actual production time or ideal production time, will give us a production rate. Reciprocal of the times will give us a production rate. So that's what is happening here. We have reciprocated this what do you call production rate to get the time. Okay, this is basically production time, 50 pieces per hour. That's your production time, and you reciprocate that, you get the time. Okay, ideal cycle time, because this is ideal production rate, you get the ideal cycle time. So this is per hour,